we need to bring in that time when or whatever you called it that we were going to do about Karun Chandhok.
Oh, Karun Chandhok.
When Karun Chandhok was in F1.
When Karun Chandhok was in Q3.
Yeah.
And that's the end of our Karun Chandhok section. It's his favourite part of the weekend.
Oh, I applied for the Sky thing. You know that, but
yeah, that's exciting. Let's see what they say.
Haven't heard back yet. Are the races more entertaining for you now than they were?
Yeah, because the midfield's more.
Two, if you plan it, but you have properly one go
to go quicker than the other.
To guys. Go quicker than everyone else there, and that doesn't mean anything anymore.
We've had the new regulations for all of 2 Grand Prix, 3 if you're listening to this, but by the time of recording, we've only had 2, and there has been quite a controversy. Welcome back to Ahead at the Apex, and this week we are talking about the new regulations. I think I made that very clear. And once again, I'm joined by Tim and Katie. Say hi, Tim and Katie.
Hi, Tim and Katie.
Woo! Bow, 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 bow. And Tim and Katie have found a soundboard this week. So, Tim, the new regulations, quite a big outcry on social media, quite a big outcry from the drivers. But the thing I want to start with, which I think is perhaps the worst that has come from this, is Formula One censoring people online.
Guys, Josh here in the edit. So the video you're about to see has some language in it and some text that was written by people online, and we felt it important to portray that in an honest and open way, because this is a major company, major media outlet censoring fans of that media outlet. And so we apologize for the language that was used in the video by people, not us. If anybody is upset by that, we apologize.
The kind of comments that people have been putting on the F1 posts that F1 have been censoring, and it's a little bit unusual because you might think, oh, okay, they're hiding stuff that's got, I mean, there are death threats in there, sure, or they're hiding stuff that's got language on, sure. I completely get that they're trying to brand themselves as a sort of clean, family-friendly sport. I can understand that, but some of the stuff that's been on there is confusing because there's some posts that have been allowed through and some that haven't. So it's not random. It seems more like a when did you post type thing. So to put it into perspective, F1 published on the 8th of March a graphic that featured George and Charles going through turn 2 at Australia. And in front of Charles's car, because he was behind, it said 45 overtakes in the 2025 Australian Grand Prix. And next to George's car, it said 120. You see this?
Yeah.
You see this post? Okay, so first of all, this sparks huge outcry, mainly because more overtakes does not mean better racing. That is not the case. Also, they're comparing the end of a regulation cycle to the start of a new regulation cycle. So obviously, the racing is going to be more erratic, and therefore there's going to be more overtaking in a new set of regulations. Think 2022 compared to 2025, right?
Yep.
Like Charles and Max battling out at the start of every Grand Prix to maybe Lando gets past at the start, right? That's what we're talking about. So they don't mean the same thing. But some of the comments that were allowed through, and again, I'll put this video up. So one of them was stop the RIP F1 2026. All caps, who cares about overtakes? It's so fake. This is by far the worst F1 I have ever witnessed in maybe 25 years. Artificial overtakes and fake racing, we're not falling for that. Sorry. These were allowed through. The ones that weren't allowed through, swapping for positions for one corner and swapping back because battery power isn't an overtake, it's a game. Artificial overtakes, bullshit. You killed the spirit of the sport. Delusion in every word you speak, which is what's wrong with that? And artificially increasing these numbers with a stupid reg doesn't make it entertaining at F1, you idiots. Well, how do we feel about that?
I mean, they're the same photo. Do you not get that meme?
Yes, yeah. Corporate wants you to find the difference. Those comments are not too dissimilar to the ones that were allowed through.
I think let's take a second. So when you think of, and we're trying to answer the question, were the regulations successful?
Yeah.
Now, if you take a very objective view, the regulations were completely successful because the intention of them was to boost overtakes. It was to inflate the number of overtakes per race.
Sure.
This was the goal going into, they said, okay, how do we change it so there's more overtakes? That was the metric that they selected to focus on.
Well, mainly because all the fans said the race is over by the end of turn one, lap one.
Yeah. So was it right for the FIA to respond and dictate the regulations to be as such? That's a separate question. But in listening to what people were saying, they then said, right, we're going to change the regulations to do this. And they've done that. So yes, they have been successful in that objective. Now, I think the bigger question is that objective the right objective? And I think what's becoming clear is the answer to that question is no.
Right.
Because, as you say, and as a lot of people and a lot of these comments have said, it's if you just overtake someone because you've mushroomed through the off-road,
yep.
Is that racing? No, it's a video game. And I think that's a good point and a good comment. But then I think I think what they should say is, okay, well, what would you like?
Sure.
Because you will forever get this problem and you will forever get this criticism at the start of any regulation period. And you have had that, and that's fine. I think, is it fair for the FIA to censor any F1 to censor any criticism? Absolutely not.
No.
They shouldn't be doing that.
No. And there's more censorship going on. So there's we're going to get through, what's working about the regulations, what's not working, is it real racing, all of that stuff very shortly. But I think firstly, we need to address the censorship. Is it right? I agree wholeheartedly. It is not right for F1 to censor, right? Social media platforms have an age restriction for a reason. This is that reason, amongst other things. But the people who should be reading this post are considered either adults or mature teens, right? So a little bit of bad language, maybe a death threat or two. None of us want to see the social media admin threatened this way, but we're all supposed to be adults here. So we can see that and realize, oh, this person's just angry, thinks hiding behind a keyboard is fine. Censoring opinions is not okay.
Yeah, right? I think there's a comment to be made about, and I would implore everyone to think about this. Why would you bother commenting anything? If you have an opinion and you want to make it that point, go to your buddies and say, I think this is really stupid.
Start your own podcast.
Yeah, and like I've always thought Instagram comment sections are a bit pointless. if you don't know the person or you don't
only
know the
because
images.
people in our Instagram comment sections think that you're delusional about Senna.
but generally, I think this is more a social media conversation rather than an F1 conversation.
So
Yeah.
to bring it to F1, have you seen the theory that they are actually censoring the footage?
That's what we're about to get onto. So the next part of this is dishonesty, right? So as Katie so accurately puts, there's a couple of things about footage here that don't make sense. So firstly, they're only showing 1 decimal place on the timing tower, right? That's
hate
weird.
it.
It's awful.
I hate it because 0.801 is completely different to
0.899.
Yeah, I mean it's rounded differently, but
How do we know that though?
that's true.
How do we know that they're rounding correctly and not just showing us the first decimal place, right?
Exactly. Also, the graphics.
Yeah.
I've heard allegedly they're keeping the top speed up on the graphics.
Right,
longer.
so that's the next one. So there's a video of Antonelli in China where if you listen to the clip, you can hear the super clipping taking place and the engine revs dying. If you watch the graphics on the Halo, the speed stays the same, right? That's an interesting choice. Now, okay, you might say Antonelli's going over because there's a tunnel there. It's under this. The Chinese Grand Prix is built on marshland, and at that particular corner where the hairpin is, there's a tunnel that runs underneath, and we've always had trouble with tunnels and Formula One telemetry, right? It's the reason that the Singapore Grand Prix, the very first Singapore Grand Prix, there were the underground train tunnels underneath, and when a train passed through, it cut, and a lot of engines retired. We've had issues with the Bahrain tunnels that run under the track for many years, all of that stuff, right? But why lie about it?
It's funny you should say you saw it about Kimi Antonelli because I heard it about George Russell.
Okay.
So if it's multiple drivers,
But then it's multiple drivers from the same team. Is it an issue with the Mercedes communications? We know that various teams have had communication issues with the cars, and that's why some of them haven't started. But the one that gets me, and I saw this recently, is that we're all aware of the AWS graphics, right? So the striking distance and tire life, and we used to see the battery level predictions and whatever else, right? But it always said powered by AWS and not real, right? So like you'd see back in 21, we used to see the Lewis tire life versus Max tire life, and yeah, Max is catching Lewis even though he's got 10% tire life left and whatever. And you just look at it and you go, okay, well, you know,
and you take it with a pinch of salt.
You know what we're talking about. And overtake striking
distance was the
5
overtake
laps,
difficulty
whatever.
is the funniest one. It's like the striking distance I think is okay because they just take the number and extrapolate.
Yeah.
But then when they go overtake difficulty,
Yeah,
it's
and
like
it's you know,
Lewis seeing AWS overtake difficulty 8.
see, I like the ones where it's like, oh, expected battle in 5 laps.
that's fine.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's
Striking
fine.
distance I think is cool.
But in this new era of battery powered F1, if that's what we're calling it, we've seen the F1 graphics at the bottom where it's like Charles and George, and it's live speed, whether that's live or not is another debate, and battery percentage and whether they're deploying or harvesting, right?
Yeah.
We've seen those batteries move up and down. That graphic should not exist because the battery level is not transmitted to the FIA.
Interesting.
So that graphic is completely made up, and yet it appears in the F1 broadcast like it's gospel.
So
right?
the battery level isn't transmitted to who? Surely it's transmitted to the garage, because there's the words of wisdom where.
Well, yeah, so it's transmitted to the garage, but it's not broadcast.
Yeah.
Like,
I think we should call it Formula 1.E.
so that is completely, and again, this is just. It's just dishonesty. It's smoke and mirrors to hide what the potential problems are, right? Because people are watching going, oh, wow, you know, George has got 70% and Charles has got 80, which means Charles can boost for longer. No, it's completely made up. It's completely fiction. Completely fiction. So, yeah, I just wanted to get that off. Clearly, Katie, you did the same thing. So, great. Should we talk about should we sprinkle some positivity on these regulations and talk about what is working?
So when we were talking about overtakes, I honestly thought at the Chinese Grand Prix, the battle between Hamilton and Leclerc, which had many overtakes.
Many.
That was exciting.
That was
me.
good. Yeah, it was great.
I loved it. I was expecting them to crash at one point. I think they did hit each other a little bit.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's one of the most exciting races part of a race that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was great.
And I don't think that would have been possible without the new regs, maybe.
It wasn't possible last year. No.
Yeah.
Not for as long. Not that prolonged. I'm trying to think. I mean, Tim will remember the Red Bull days in 2010 to 2013, side by side. So that was possible.
That was all pretty aggressive, but
Ferrari,
that was more
not the
because
same.
it was small and there was less aero.
Yeah.
So you weren't as disruptive.
I remember the Mercedes battles, 14, 15, 16 sort of time when they were very, very fairly equal.
Last year, I just don't feel like the battles were really there, to be honest.
The last time I can remember a side-by-side battle that long was 2022, and it was Max and Verstappen.
So 4
Max
years
and
ago.
Verstappen, Max and Charles.
I think it was because, and I remember, again, we've spoken about this before. I think Albon was talking about it. By the end of the regulations, the aero became so aggressive, and by aggressive I mean you designed your aero to be as disruptive to the car behind you as possible. This whole idea that you can follow really closely, which was the intention of the regulation change in 22, was eliminated.
Right.
And I think the fact that we have a lower reliance on aero means that you will get this a bit longer into the regulation period than we had last time. Like you said, 22 was fine. It wasn't so hostile in terms of the aero designs.
But even then, I'm thinking the regs that started in 2009 were basically the same aero regs that made it to 2016.
Yeah.
The cars didn't change much, right? Yes, we had the hybrid switchover, we had the introduction of KERS and DRS, but realistically, the car shapes didn't change too much.
Yeah.
The front wing dimensions, the rear wing height, all of that stuff was fairly consistent. And those aero regs were good. But 2016 was a great season. It's good. But yes, you're right.
I think it has provided a platform in which you can race each other more closely for longer. So I think that's a positive.
We've got good side-by-side racing. Have they provided a clear path for somebody to make it to the top of the field? Is there a package that works that has allowed somebody to win the first two races? And the answer is yes. Right? So Mercedes have a good chassis, integrated well with a power unit, aero that works. They're able to look after their tires. They're able to manage their battery. So yes. There is one clear way currently of winning races, right? Like other teams may have got it wrong, but there is a
method.
There is a current clear right method to get there. It's just that other teams have got it wrong. Katie, have we got new manufacturers?
Yeah.
So that works. That worked because that was the goal, right? Was we redesign these regs to make it attractive to car manufacturers to come back to the sport.
And I think looking at Audi's performance, it hasn't been that difficult for them to integrate. Like they're doing quite well. I mean, Cadillac is another story. But
they're more starting from scratch than Audi were. Though.
Audi had kick already, but I'm actually excited for Audi this year.
Yeah.
I think by the end they will have a competitive car.
So that's worked. Have the new regs pushed the envelope on car development?
No, we're slower.
No, but car development, not speed.
Oh,
have we pushed car technology forward a step?
I mean, you look at the state of the front wings; they're a lot different to last year. The actual aero looks quite a bit different.
Sure.
The side pods. You've got Red Bull with not Red Bull, Racing Bulls with that huge. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah. But we've pushed battery tech forward, right?
Yes, I think we've done more in this regulation change than Formula E have ever done.
Interesting.
Because Formula E is a spec series, so
sure
it killed that.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that we are slower than we were last year is bad from a sport point of view.
Yeah, maybe a little.
As a relative new Formula One watcher, I love the crashes. When someone crashes, I love it. It's so much drama. But I think we're going to have less crashes this year because we're not going as fast into the corners.
Because everyone's not starting the race. There's no one to crash into, unfortunately.
I was sort of likening this to sort of go-karting because we went go-karting the other week. The hardest bit that I found was the corners. Being able to go into the corners fast and not get loads of oversteer, right? Yeah. With this super clipping, they're going into the corners slower to charge their batteries.
Well, the chef can drive the car, right?
So it's easier, you know?
Yeah. So as a relatively new F1 follower, are the races more entertaining for you now than they were?
Yeah, because the midfield's more... I don't know if it's just because we have, 6 retirees each race, it seems.
So far.
But the midfield seems a lot more varied. But last year, you knew who was going to be at the back of the pack.
Yeah.
This year, you've got Alpine, who are actually doing quite well. You've got Haas, who are doing quite well. They're sort of underdogs from last year. I mean, looking at Mercedes and Ferrari at the start, last year we had different people at the start more often. I mean, it's only been 2 races, but I can see I don't think we'll have many different pole people, but we didn't really have that last year, so...
True.
I don't know.
Have we lost any element of sport with the new regulations? Has it become too much an entertainment? Or do we still have the
I
sport
think
element?
one of the things I am upset about is that there is... I don't feel qualifying is anywhere near as important.
Right. We're going to get onto that in a sec.
And I think when you talk about sport, I think that takes a lot out of it because that is the most difficult part of the weekend.
Yeah.
Is can you have one try, 2 if you plan it, but you have properly one go
to go quicker than the other guys.
To go quicker than everyone else there. Yeah. And that doesn't mean anything anymore.
No.
Because George will pole and then Leclerc will just Mario Kart at the beginning. So it sort of kills that. And I think that's a shame. And my favourite part, and there's been lots said about Monaco, but my favourite part of the whole F1 season is qualifying at Monaco. Yeah. I think that is epic. That is the most raw and technical and challenging part of the entire year. And I think it still will be the most exciting part of the year, but it sort of made it feel less important. And I think that's a shame. And I think you've lost some of the core spirit of that sport, of the sport.
I couldn't agree more because actually I think even if you look at this and go, okay, so the battery management, the tyre management, the fuel management, that is all part of racing that happens in WEC, happens in touring cars and happens in other GT series and other racing series. That is a thing. Okay. But WEC cars still get hyperpole and they still really fast.
Yeah.
In qualifying sessions. They're still able to go 3 seconds a lap faster in qualifying than they are in the race. But here, now, I don't think so. And it's really punishing some of the drivers.
I think the race has become more exciting. So, for example, we asked you, had you watched the race? And you said, I've watched the first few laps. That's all that exciting or something.
Well, I fell asleep. Yeah. It was 4 a.m.
But
it's brutal to have Australia and China back to back. It's absolutely killed me.
I was hungover in China. I was like, I could do this for sleep.
Before last year, you would watch the first corner and then pretty much the rest of the race, unless there was a safety car.
Yeah, there was a bit more to kind of get your teeth in.
There wasn't really sort of, I don't know, some of the tracks. It was pretty much decided the finishing after the first corner.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know if this is going to continue, but I think it's exciting to watch the whole race now. It's not just going to be, okay, so Kimi's first after the first corner, he's going to win the race.
Sure.
I
That
agree.
is exactly what happened.
No, he dropped places. I swear.
He only fell behind Hamilton.
But
then he got Hamilton on lap 3 or 4 or whatever. And
but
then
at least in the midfield, we watch more of the midfield now.
Yes, I love the battle for 11th, to be fair.
That's what keeps me up at night.
Last year, I was sick of just watching Lando try and overtake Max
funny because
for about
actually
10 laps.
one of my biggest criticisms about MotoGP is that you only ever see the fight for the lead, right? Like you're only ever watching the leader and maybe the podium places. You never see what happens further down the field. And yet my criticism for F1 so far is that there's nothing going on at the front. So we don't see the front.
I think we're just impossible to please.
Right. So qualifying, you and I agree on, Tim.
I think that's the only thing. I think that to me feels like the big loss. I think there's always a big loss and a big win from a regulation change. I think the big loss is this qualifying, or the lack of importance in qualifying. And I think the big win is, we're getting more overtakes.
Well, I wonder as well if these new regulations are going to force a lot of teams to break the cost cap. And therefore, have they made the cost cap irrelevant?
Oh, interesting.
So what happens if they do?
Well,
they're not allowed to have lunch next year.
Yeah, there is a list of penalties that they're allowed to hand out, right? So it's anything from losing a bit of wind tunnel time to disqualification.
Bit boring.
But if you ask Christian Horner, just put it down as chips.
Yeah. Pie and
Because
chips.
Red Bull are the only teams who have broken the cost cap ever. And they went on to win the title the next year. And again. And again.
Yeah.
But I can see that, particularly Honda, I can see Honda just going, well, we are a huge corporation, so we'll just spend more money.
Well, they need to fix it, don't they?
Yeah, but there's needing to fix it and there's then breaking the rules.
Yeah, but I feel like for their business as a whole, they're
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, Williams can't do this. Williams don't have the budget to break the cost cap. Neither do Haas. But Honda, Red Bull, Ferrari, heck yeah.
I'm still on my qualifying point. I think qualifying exhibits...
That was so 15 minutes ago.
Exhibits a different challenge than a race does. And I think that's interesting because it means that you have to make a choice. You have to compromise one to benefit the other in some ways. Yeah. And the fact that, and then the sprint weekends came in and then suddenly Brundle was like, oh, fantastic. Don't have to watch practice anymore. We can watch racing, which of course then means it makes that choice much more obvious to bias the race because there's more racing and therefore having a race trim is better than having a qualifying trim. Yeah. And Ferrari made this mistake at 22 because they had a phenomenal qualifying car, but then didn't have the race pace because they set the car up in the way that they set the car up. And I think the fact that you then have this, what feels like convergence in how sensible it is to set the car up for a race, it then just, and also the things like when they got rid of the rule about whatever you qualified out of Q2, you have to start on that tyre. Yep. Those kind of rules. You had to make choices. There had to be some conscious thought about it. Now it's just, there's no choice. And this is making it to me feel very, very repetitive.
So I actually like that rule.
I loved that rule. And I was gutted when they got rid of it.
The thing that gets me about that is that it goes against the qualifying is about outright pace, right? Because you are making a choice as to whether or not you are better in the race or not.
Yeah.
So
in qualifying.
Yeah. And
how about we bring in a few little points for qualifying? So less points than the obviously Grand Prix, but if you say had from like with the sprint race, I don't know, top 10 if you go pole you get 10 points, blah blah blah.
Well, the sprint used to decide the Grand Prix grid when it was first introduced, and that was
which is pointless.
Because
you then just ended up running. Then everyone's criticisms about Monaco being a train.
Yeah.
then they then made a sprint race, which meant anything that was slightly out of place would get sorted out, and then you just drive around like that.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah, and actually the one that gets me is the one that people throw around a lot is Lewis in Brazil, where it's like, oh my God, he came from last to win the race. No, he didn't. He came from last to finish 10th, and then went from 10th to finish first. And he did that in 1.5 Grand Prix.
Yeah.
With an absolute rocket ship engine. Anyway.
The other one, what I was going to say was, I think having something that forces you to compromise or forces a team to compromise is a good thing. And we've slowly been losing any sense of compromise throughout the weekend. And therefore, it just ends up feeling very, very one-dimensional, which I personally don't like. And this to me, or this regulation period, feels to me a continuation of that.
Yeah, but also, how many times do we hear now, oh, well, Max has got an extra set of hards? Yeah, they all do. Back in the past, you'd choose whether you were bringing extra hards or extra softs or extra mediums, and even super softs, hyper softs, ultra soft.
I miss hyper soft.
You choose your tyres for a Grand Prix weekend. So Red Bull might think to themselves, well, I've got better tyre life than Mercedes. So what I'll do is I'll bring more softs. I'll be quicker on average.
And this is what I mean about it. It then that adds so much depth to the sport.
Yeah.
So much depth. And now it's like everyone can have every single tyre that they want all of the time. And actually the tyres are now so good that they basically degrade at the same rate.
Do you think that the teams should be given the whole catalogue of tyres and then they choose, okay, they want the C4, they want the C2 for the race instead of Pirelli deciding that?
Yes.
But
you choose that at the start of the season.
I think you choose that per
race.
No. Yeah, but you choose that per race, but you make that choice at the start of the season.
Yeah.
So you can't adapt to the car.
You can't turn up in Australia, realise that actually your tyre wear is monstrous. You've selected a bunch of softs for every single race in the first half of the season, and now you're screwed. That's your choice. You made that choice. You have to now live with that choice.
I also think you've said it in the past. I love your idea of bringing back points for fastest lap. So you get the pack 10, putting on the softs and having a full on race.
But again, that's a decision, right? And it became strategical.
Yep.
Like in 2021, you would have Perez and Bottas 50 seconds off the lead in third and fourth,
gunning it,
but 30 seconds ahead of fifth place. And then they would pit to try and take the fastest lap so that Mercedes or Red Bull scored the fastest lap.
I always thought it was so rubbish that if you got fastest lap but didn't finish in the top 10, you didn't get any points.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous because I feel like it also let's say you are in
19th,
20th to 12th. You then just end up having this really aggressive qualifying scramble at the end of a race.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Why would we prefer to just watch the battle for 16th over absolutely nothing for no reason? Who cares?
Yeah.
Literally, you've taken so many points and so many goals out of the sport.
The sport
to
has
simplify
become
it
so simple. If you go back and watch, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, 2018, where they had the full rainbow of tyres. They also they hadn't yet got the fastest lap point, but they still had the Q2 rule. And also on the timing tower, they had the badges, the colours, the tyre colours, the gaps in 3 decimal places. And on the little mini timing window in qualifying, they had the mini sectors.
Oh, the mini sectors were fantastic.
Right, which they've now brought back on the Halo graphic a little. But the mini sectors, and you watch it, and yes, there is a lot going on. But that is what I watch the sport for.
That's interesting.
I'm a nerd.
That's interesting.
I am a nerd. I am an F1 nerd, and I want all that information. And you can get all that information if you pay us $25.99 a month for F1 TV and you don't live in the UK. So that information exists. Give me it back.
I think
you took it away from us.
I have recently started getting an appreciation for American football.
Right.
And I think American football does...
They don't have any apexes. We're not talking about
No, I know. But the point I want to make is, I think you look at it or you just watch it and you sort of go, it's a bit weird. You know, it's quite stop-starty. It's quite slow.
Yeah.
But it's one of those sports that the more you watch it, the more complicated it becomes, and therefore the more interesting it becomes.
Right.
It becomes very quickly this ridiculously tactical game, and understanding the roles of each of the players is very interesting, and how this fits into one cohesive unit. And then, I mean, don't even get started about special teams, and it gets quite complicated. But I think that's a good thing. I think having complexity and having layers is a good thing.
Yes.
I think football is probably where they've started leaning towards, because they go, football is the simplest game in the world, and therefore it has the biggest viewership. And it's like, no, football has the biggest viewership because culturally it's more important, because back in the day when it really started cementing itself, everyone was a little bit thicker. And we didn't have the resource and in order to learn about things.
Soccer, football is perhaps one of the simplest games.
Yeah.
There are 11 people on a team, and the goal is put that ball between those
in the goal.
3 posts.
And like the most complicated rule is offside.
Yeah.
But again, that's not very difficult. But that's a sport that benefits from simplicity because it's more about the players and the team and how it connects. F1 is not that kind of sport because it is technical, because you've got to build a bloody car.
Anybody can go out to that car park right now and go and play a game of football, but you can't go out there and play a game of F1.
And then I think as a viewer, understanding what it is they're doing and why they've done things in that way adds to the interest. It adds to this thing. And then also making it so that they have to make decisions and compromise and be adaptable race to race, also throws things up in the air more often.
Yeah.
And taking away things like fastest lap, taking away things like the Q2 rule, meant that the teams have to do that less and less and less, and therefore it becomes more simple. But because it's a technical sport, I don't think that advantages things.
Well, last night while I was
it becomes
this,
boring.
Formula One released Schumacher versus Hakkinen. Schumacher versus Hakkinen highlights at Imola, and they were like, "Oh well, Michael's got harder tires, so he stayed out for longer, but now he's going to catch back. He's been able to extend that with his fuel strategy, and now Hakkinen's got to chase him down, and this is absolutely epic." And they called it Schumacher and Hakkinen's epic battle. Not once were Schumacher and Hakkinen sharing the same space of tarmac, but they were in a battle over time in the Grand Prix because they were 30 seconds or so apart. Hakkinen was bearing down on Schumacher, who had to pit again. So it was like, well, will Schumacher come out in front of Hakkinen or behind Hakkinen? Yeah. They're on different parts of the track, and it was still more exciting than Australia.
And the first change, I think, that really kicked this all off was the no refueling. Obviously,
sucks.
Obviously, a good safety decision. I mean, the number of videos of mechanics on fire.
Yeah, but how many times since we've got rid of refueling and we now have 3-second pit stops have we run over a mechanic's leg?
Fair. But again, that took away another decision you had to make.
Yeah.
Which is how much fuel are we going to put in the car?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more decisions you thought or you remove, the more optimized it gets because it's more predictable.
Yeah.
And then from a racing perspective, because it's more predictable, it becomes more boring. I think when you go back to saying, well, has it been entertaining? I think it's very difficult to define entertaining.
Yeah, because your idea of entertainment and my idea are very different.
It's different.
But the bigger question is, should we be patching these regulations so quickly? And the thing we talked about when we first came in, Katie, if you remember, was Big Fred.
Oh, yeah.
Kicking off at the FIA last night, that enough's enough and Ferrari will not stand for this anymore, is the start, right? The start procedure. So I was as surprised as anybody else to see in Australia that the blue light flashed that says start procedure, because I didn't realize they'd passed that.
I don't really get the point.
So literally last year, literally 3 races ago in Abu Dhabi, the start procedure was red light counts down to when the pit crew has to go off, and then the lights come on, and so there's an outer and a middle one, they're all off, and the 2 lights in the middle flash formation lap begins, right? The formation lap procedure is safety car procedure, so no more than 10 car lengths behind the car in front, no erratic changes of speed, warm tyres, brakes, get the cars warm, ready, get back into your pit box, fill from the front. When the last car's in, the lights go green and then off, and then a guy walks past with the green flag at the back to make sure everybody's in their position, and then the lights come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out.
Go.
Yeah, so why have they added this blue? Because I saw
Right.
it, but I don't get why they've added it.
So
It's just to warm spin the turbos.
This is because everybody and their mums, apart from Ferrari, said, well, the problem with these big turbos is that we're going to have cars that are really slow off the line. So we need time. We need 12 seconds of time to spool the turbos up so that we have full battery deployment off the line and we're not all stationary. And Ferrari warned the FIA of this last year and said, you need to make changes to these regulations. And the FIA said, no, design your car within the regulations. Come Bahrain testing, the other teams say we're going to have problems at the start. And Ferrari say, well, design your cars within the regulations. And the compromise was this 5-second delay, which is the blue light. It says start procedure. Well, now they're talking about changing it to 10 seconds, and Fred has had enough. And quite right too. I agree with him.
I think it comes down to what you were previously talking about. Like, we're changing the regs to be more simpler.
Yeah.
We're taking away this chaos. We're taking away choices. Okay, Ferrari have obviously chosen to have a really good start, which we see. They're mega, you know.
But that punishes them.
But that punishes them with the overall pace, right?
Yeah, because they don't have straight line speed.
Mercedes have decided to have a terrible start. So, but they've got the pace.
Yeah.
We know at the moment that the pace outweighs the start. But like I keep on saying, is a late safety car, Ferrari are going to do really well.
And we've all said Hungary and Monaco, Ferrari will do really well,
Exactly.
right?
So let them play. Let them play.
Exactly. Let them have this chaos. Let them make choices.
I don't want to go
Have
back.
some accountability. Jesus.
I don't want to go back to the mad conversation that you had, but it's like you were comparing it to football being really simple, right? Rugby is a sport of chaos, you know? And you don't have the overall viewership as you do with sort of football, but rugby's more exciting to watch than football because of that chaos. You don't know what's going to happen. I played rugby for I don't know how long. I don't know all the rules, right? But I still like to watch it. It's like with F1.
You should know some of the rules.
I know some of the rules. I don't know all of them.
But that's a great point. You said the viewership is less, but it's more exciting. And that's what F1 was, right? F1 used to be a relatively small sport in terms of viewership.
But keep all the complex rules. Not everyone's going to know the rules. And
that's fine.
Like with me with rugby, but I still find it entertaining.
Dare I say it's the job of Martin Brundle and David Croft to explain the rules.
They're terrible.
Yeah.
The fact they didn't even realise that Kimi had taken his 10-second time penalty or whatever in the sprint.
Oh, not even that. Colapinto was on a lap in Q2 and they were reeling off who'd been eliminated.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was bad. I remember that.
I don't know if it's just because they see the footage, but even I know that, like...
His time was at the bottom of... Anyway.
I've been on the Martin Brundle needs to leave train for about 10 years. Yeah. But yes, I agree.
I have to say, though, I do love Bernie's technical knowledge. She's
fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very conscious of time. There was a lot more that I had written down. What I will do with this is I will take this sheet and I will put it in the Patreon. Patreon. But I will. I'll take these notes. I'll flesh them out and I'll put them in the comments, in the notes of the podcast when I upload it. I'll also stick it on the website aheadatapex.com. The final thing I just wanted to mention, and I just want to mention it really quickly because we are not a geopolitical podcast, is the cancelled races in April. Look, it's just
rubbish.
We're not going to go into why this is all happening, but we've lost the Bahrain, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, we've lost the opening round of the World Endurance Championship, and we've postponed the Qatar MotoGP Grand Prix, and all of that. I just want this all to be finished so that we can all get along and so we can all have our racing tracks back, please. Amongst everything else that's going on, we're not going to comment on, but I hope everybody's staying safe where they can. Right. That's the end of the podcast. So,
last thing I want to say.
yeah.
I think based on this conclusion, which I think we've all sort of said is about a lack of choice, let's go and do a comparison on an estimated, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a team and say, if you were doing a race in 2010, and let's do one 1990, 2010, and now, and then estimate, right, how many decisions per weekend are we going to have to make? And I think that would be quite an interesting thought experiment.
Should we pick the same racetrack?
Yeah. Same race in 3 different...
So we pick the same, let's say Australia, or let's say...
or Suzuka.
Suzuka, something like that. Yeah, okay.
That might be quite interesting.
Yeah.
To just put some numbers to it.
I'm highly qualified for this.
That's all right. Me and Tim will just do it.
Yeah, Josh will just do it.
Yeah, okay, cool. So head over to the Patreon, AAT Apex. You'll see this episode early. You'll also get all the notes from this episode, and you'll also get from our perspective, right, Katie?
Yep.
I like From Our Perspective. I think it's a good series.
It's good.
I find it interesting seeing other people's perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah, and we also take submissions from our perspective as well. So it's more reason to get involved, more reason to become a member, and it's free. What more could I say? All that's left to say is thank you, Katie, for joining us, and we will see you next time for a WEC.
WEC, we are so back, baby.
WEC-isode.
Peace.
Peace.